Hey guys, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who made a donation to our fundraiser. We really appreciate your support, especially at the moment. I have an announcement to make. We have opened an online store. We have a a range of merchandise. We have t-shirts, long sleeves, sweatshirts, zip-up hoodies, normal hoodies, underwear, mugs, stickers, all kinds of stuff. So I'll pop a link in the description if you check that out. Yeah, we really appreciate your support and every little counts. Thank you so much, guys. Hi guys, welcome to Break the Chain. I'm here today with Callum Keen, aka Kettlebell Keith. He's a movement and fitness coach. He specialises in calisthenics. He caught my attention with his expert skill set and understanding of movement, which led on to him being my personal trainer, housemate, and now good friend, I think. If you'd agree with that.
Great.
Welcome.
Great.
Welcome, Callum. Thanks for coming on, mate. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah. So I guess I started PT when I was about 16. In school and that, I started training a bit early and started training my mates and stuff, giving them little programs and that. And I found that I really enjoyed that. Before this, I wanted to go and be like an ornithologist, which is where you study birds. And then I found, fitness and whatnot. So I decided that I think that was the best thing for me for the time being. Maybe have a little bit of a pivot later on in life when I wanted to sit in a hide and watch birds. From there, went to left the UK about 18. I went to New Zealand. So I was sort of training people in the UK and that at different gyms. Started teaching CrossFit gymnastics. Started getting really interested in gymnastics actually, which is I think where the sort of Cali developments really come from. Ultimately, gymnastics is very old. Cali is as well but the way it is now is not as sort of old and hasn't got as much.
Can you explain what calisthenics is for anybody who doesn't know?
So it's basically like gymnastics for people who aren't very good at gymnastics. I've done it from a young age. It's basically what it is. It's like it's a form of bodyweight training. So the Greek word for it, everyone likes to say the Greek word for it is kalisthenos, which means beautiful strength. So some people like to do more freestyle stuff, which is where you flip about on the bars and that, which is really cool. Some people like to do more of the sort of strength elements, which is very similar to gymnastics. Your front levers, which are you hold yourself out on a bar, horizontal. Your planches, where you hold yourself on the floor, parallel. Lots of different things with handstands. So I'd say it's kind of a combination of disciplines, especially nowadays. Like they reckon that everyone used to train that way, or most people used to train that way back in ancient Greece and things like this, because that's all the really hard stones in the body weight. That's kind of what it is. Mixture of dynamic and static movements. Some that are maybe high risk, like the freestyle. Some that are maybe a little bit less high risk, but very strenuous on the joints and the nervous system. So certainly for people who don't want to go to the gym or don't have a gym or enjoy just doing bodyweight movement, it is a really nice alternative to going to the gym and lifting weights, because you can still get very, very strong and look very, very good without so much equipment. So it's nice. So carrying on, moved to New Zealand when I was about 18. Travelled for about just under a year in a van, like old James over here. That was an amazing experience. Whilst in the van, I was doing a bit of training, doing a bit of studying, and started working a little bit from different CrossFit gyms around New Zealand as I was knocking about. Because CrossFit's good, people are very disciplined, they work hard, maybe they work too hard actually, to be honest. But it does mean that you get some nice people to work with who work hard, like I've said 3 times. And then from there, moved to Auckland, started working for a few gyms in Auckland, started meeting some really cool people in Auckland who were also doing Cali, which was really interesting to have some like-minded people, because before I was kind of a bit of a loner. Even in York, we've got a little community going, York where I'm from. But it wasn't until really New Zealand where I really started to be exposed to a lot more people who did Cali and learn a lot more from them. I was sort of mentored by a Commonwealth gymnast as well in Auckland for a while, got some sessions with him, and that was really nice. Then started a business in New Zealand with a mate, Jordan, who I met, mutual friend of both of ours, and Sergey as well. So we went off to New Zealand. Went off to Thailand rather. Started an online business there, because I've been dipping my toes into online personal training for since I left the UK. And then went to Thailand. We certainly had quite a lot of lessons to learn. especially in our first trip in Thailand. And then we ended up sort of filming loads of stuff. We ended up then in Bali. We had a bit of a pivot with the business. So we still kept it going. Jordan and I had a bit of a pivot in how we're delivering it. Then from Bali back to the UK. From the UK back to Thailand. Then I left to go to the Maldives this year to do some training there. Got a good opportunity and I didn't want to turn that down. Then went to Costa Rica from there. And then over the last sort of 6 months or so, recently with the business, we've been going through a slightly different avenue where we've actually been using the content that we've created to create products. So at the moment, we're like selling a handstand course, which is where we sort of decide to try and teach people to handstand without giving them all the same amount of time. So the idea is to give them a program that they can follow or a course that they can follow where they can actually troubleshoot and sort of use algorithms to find out where their issue is, whether it's a mobility issue, a strength issue, a skill issue, and then actually what to do to solve that issue and actually develop and hold a handstand and progress from there. So yeah, that's me.
What blew my mind was when I asked you how old you was, which wasn't that long ago. How long ago was that? Was it 18 months ago?
Yeah.
And I think the answer that you gave me at the time was probably 20 years old.
Yeah. Wasn't
it? How old are you now? 22?
22, yeah.
22, just probably not long ago. And you, for your age, you just, you are super mature for your age, bar the incident with the avocado. You are very...
I'm on there.
And, no, that wasn't too bad. But for we'll probably tell people about the avocado later. But, other than that, just for your age, you just seem unbelievably mature and, you especially with everything, you're kind of super focused, you seem to really know what you like doing, and your whole life seems like incredibly aligned, which makes it just seem like it's got far less resistance than, my life had and a lot of people's lives who I see. Tell people what you did for your 21st birthday, because it's not normal.
21st was so the workout called Murph, and it's like a CrossFit workout that they did for a guy who died in somewhere in the Middle East. And the workout is a 1 mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then another mile run. You're supposed to do it with a weight vest on. I think it's like a 10 kilogram weight vest. But you're also allowed to do that with pull-ups and stuff, kipping. But I didn't do it with a weight vest. I didn't have one. I didn't do it kipping because I just didn't do it kipping with the pull-ups. So yeah, that's the workout. And then you do that I did that for 21 hours, as many times as I could. I think I did it 10 and a half times or something. So I was decent that, yeah. That was good fun, really good fun. It's something different, isn't it? It's like when you go on a walk or something, it's a really hard walk and the weather gets, a bit crap and you just but then you just learn to love it. You just after a while, it's like, actually, this is really good. I feel alive. I really feel alive. And that's what it's like. You just feel alive, don't you?
I don't know. I felt dead for my 21st birthday, and I think most people do, because at 21, what do? You get shit-faced. And that's what I did at 21 years old, and that's kind of like where my headspace was at. And I think that most people at 21 years old are in that headspace where they just want to get leathered with the mates, minimum drunk or whatever else you're into at 21. But it's kind of like the 21's like a milestone of loose birthday parties. And I think for mine, my friends put shots of Tabasco sauce and didn't tell me in my shots, and I didn't notice the first one because I was so leathered, and then by the second one, and I was just sick everywhere, and that was 21 years old, and you're out there for 21 hours doing obscene. I mean, it'd take me a week to do 100 pull-ups. I don't even know.
Foresight thought it.
I don't even think I could do 100 pull-ups. If maybe one a day, 100 days. But how many pull-ups? How many of each did you do in that 21 hours?
Yes, it was maybe 1,000 or 1,100 pull-ups. I can't remember, and then 2,000 or maybe slightly more push-ups, 3,000 squats, and then total of 21 miles running. I don't know. I had more in the tank, mate, to be honest. What happened was the police came to the first location and they kicked us out because it was closing. It was like a university. It was closing. And then went to another location, and a few hours after they kicked us out, because obviously 21 hours is quite a long time. It's like a full day. Well, not quite a full day, but almost. So we got kicked out of 2 places, basically. We ended up just doing it on the street, hanging the rings over like a big sign on the street and doing it there. So, yeah. I mean, it's a good video, actually, on YouTube. Geordie made really good video.
I'll stick a link in the description so people can watch that. Yeah, it's a good video. It's just not, I mean, it's not normal. I mean, do you meet many other people who are at your kind of level of fitness who, I mean, you're not a professional athlete. You're a professional trainer, aren't you? But you're not like a professional performing athlete necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, fitness is to be fit is the ability to do a task. So fitness is a funny word because it's like it is specific to whatever task you're trying to do. So if you're trying to run a marathon, then you are fit to do a marathon. If you're trying to tie your shoelace, then you are fit to tie your shoelace. If you're trying to go for a coffee with Susan, then you're fit to go for a coffee with Susan.
I'm about there. I can do that stuff.
Yeah. Go for a coffee, yeah. Or a chai tea with Manuka honey.
Yeah, brilliant.
So, I mean, I got inspiration from a guy called Ross Edgley. If you haven't checked him out online, he did like Great British Swim, among many other things. He's got a couple of books out. I haven't read a second one yet because I've been in Costa Rica, but he's like a decent guy. He's from Lincolnshire as well, actually.
Is he?
Yeah, I think so. But he basically done some crazy stuff, and I remember watching that and thinking, like, I want to do something like this. I want to do something that's just going to really push the boundaries and make me a more resilient human, you know. So that's where it came from. And then other people, like, I don't know. I think people have got it in the tank. You just got to want it. I don't know what is it that gets it? Because I've got friends who are trail runners and they'll run all day. You know, they'll run like 50 miles, stuff like this, which is crazy hard. So yeah, I think people have got it in the tank. It's just like, I think I just decided to do something a little bit different, and I used my skill set of like being able to do Cali quite well, quite efficient with these movements, having lots of practice in them. So it just meant that I could do something that was a bit different.
There is a difference. Yeah. There is a difference. I mean, when I did that, when I cycled from John O'Groats to Land's End, which is, you know, roughly 1,000 miles, and I entered that with I went out on this bike twice. I'd never ridden a road bike before. I rode one twice, and then got dropped off in the top of Scotland after a drug bender, essentially. And it was like, it was windy, it wind straight in my face, and I was just like, after, I don't know, like 50 kilometres, I felt like crying. I was like, what are you doing? Why have you started? What was the point in this? This is ridiculous. But because of the cause that I was doing for it, I was raising awareness for suicide and stuff. And obviously I'd just been affected by a devastating event myself. And it kind of drove me all the way through the entire UK. And what surprised me is that doing it consecutively, day after day, actually, my body just got used to it, which was really, it was actually kind of educational, and like, because I would have thought that you would needed to rest, but actually what happened is my body just got adapted and got used to it, which really surprised me. And by the end, after about 5 or 6 days, I kind of turned into an engine, and I was just like, my mind stopped having any resistance to the exercise, and my legs just went round without. It was like it was detached from my effort. It was like it was, unless it was a massive hill. But then I learned to adjust the gears to it being so easy that it was like, and yeah, fair enough. But on a bike, you can kind of pace yourself and back off loads and go real steady. But something like the Murph, you can't do that for 21 hours of pull-ups, and you kind of got to keep going. And and what else did you do? You did a weighted marathon. Yeah,
this year, 22nd. I'm not really sure why. No, I think because I never really like celebrating birthdays for Christmas. I like Christmas. Christmas is great because everyone just sits down and has good food together. It's just really nice. But birthdays I don't really like so much. So I think, but it is. People see it as a milestone, don't they? So like, don't know why exactly decided to do it. It's only been twice on it. But I think I'm gonna do something else this year, but we'll see. But yeah, 22 kilograms because that was my 22nd. I did that for a marathon in Singapore. That was yeah. I trained for that for ages because I was like, right, I need to make sure my spine and my hips and my ankles and everything are just like robust enough to actually not get injured. And I did it, and it was like well busy. So it was kind of annoying. Like, just loads of people everywhere. And you got this big pack on, you're like trying to run through them at the start, so you've got a bit of space. And just like this big burly ox, like, yeah. But it was really nice. There's some great people doing it. Like, what I liked about, like, because I wasn't fast, I wasn't anywhere, I wasn't fast. So all the people who were kind of chilling and like running together and chatting, I was sort of eavesdropping in on these conversations, and just really nice, like very positive environment. I think anyone who like is sort of stuck for something, deciding to run a marathon, it's a nice goal. Like, not only is it going to be a good way of expanding your work capacity as a human, it's also just a really nice social thing. Like, doing the event, quite magical. If you go for a run with your mate, stuff. Obviously, you're going to get, improved endurance and probably, depending on where you're at, maybe become a little bit healthier from the process of doing it. You might decide to tidy your diet up and stuff like that. Sometimes just choosing that one thing and just having like a light landslide of other things that go with it, just end up happening, getting to that flow state.
I think most of us are still in the coffee zone when it comes to socialising, not doing marathons.
Yeah.
That's not my idea of socialising. But I know what you mean. It's funny because you probably don't feel that fit. You're probably comparing yourself to Ross Edgley, who swims around the entire coast of the UK. Whereas, I'm looking at you like you're unbelievably fit. And then when I think about in the past how fit I've been with running and stuff, and I've actually been reasonably fit, like way fitter than I am now with running. And at the time, I didn't feel fit. Whereas if I look now, I've been way less fit than I am now, but I've been more fit. And I'm kind of actually quite happy with where I am. I can run a good few Ks without collapsing, and I can, do enough to actually have a really healthy amount of movement in life and feel good and have my back feels good, my joints feel good from just doing a little bit of yoga, a little bit of running. Skin the cat. I don't do that. No one probably knows what that is. So you have to explain skin the cat as well, because it sounds pretty brutal if you don't actually know what it is. So you have to explain that one.
You love skin the cat, though, yeah.
It's good. But what is it? You tell people what it is, because
you do it on the ring to the bar. James just loved it. I remember first showing him it, and just obsessed with it. He was loving it. So you hang on the bar in like full hang, and then you can either do it with straight legs or bent legs. You bring your knees up to your chest or your legs up to your chest. You turn your body around, so you're still hanging. So you end up going to like shoulder extension. The legs come down in front of you, so you end up in what's called a position called German hang. Apparently, this might not be true, but apparently it's called German hang because that's how Nazis used to hang prisoners. I don't know. Apparently,
it's kind of like that way. It's like hanging.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't be very nice.
Nah, well, you get better at skin the cat, wouldn't you? So I think there's some pros in there. Then you come back through and end up in a hang. So nice little exercise, that one.
What originally attracted you to movement?
I was quite good at it. Like with the Cali stuff, like I'm not going to sit here and I remember when I was sort of first playing around with it, like 14, 15, like I could sort of hold the dirty handstand. I could press into it from the floor. I was super light. I was like 60 kilograms when I started. Just a young squire. So that certainly helped. And then you started to find that I was getting strong. I was running arm wrestles at school. And before I wasn't very strong. I was sort of a little bit weak. I was fast and quite athletic, but I wasn't very strong. And I really wanted to be strong. I remember looking at people who were strong and thinking I want to be strong. Didn't look at the big guys in the gym. Looked at the strong guys in the gym. The guys who were benching a lot, deadlifting a lot. Strong grip strength. I remember looking at labourers who were lifting their fridges and shit. Yeah, it's cool that. The strength was something that appealed to me. And then, so that's kind of it. But I did start with it. I was quite good at Cali when I first started. So that certainly helped, or at least for a beginner. That certainly helped.
I mean, it's hard. Calisthenics is hard. It's got to be one of the hardest things. It's technical. You need to have an unbelievable amount of body awareness and strength and and technique. It's tough. It's really, really tough. I mean, I noticed the guys who are good at it, they're constantly taking videos of themselves and checking and and literally obsessing. It's a very obsessive. It has to be an obsessive game to be good at it. I believe. I don't think you can really get there without kind of obsessing to the level that gymnasts do, and I've seen you and Wes and these guys with their handstands and like getting this thing like an out straight as an arrow.
Yeah, or else it's no good. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, which I wouldn't have had any idea about at all.
Yeah.
As I said before, you're one of the most focused people that I know. Why do you think that is?
I think I've been very fortunate to have a bit of a direction, like, and then be quite clear on what I want to do and not get too distracted by it. Like, really, all decisions that I seem to make in my life, and this is kind of innately really. Well, no, it's not. I mean, we're all like. Remember, you said to me, we're all lazy. We're all lazy. Like, and I thought about it for a long time, and I'm not sure, but I think there is an aspect to that. Like, we all often don't want to get up in the morning. We all often would rather sit on the sofa and watch some crap than go out and train or something, even though it's part of my identity. But that comes back to it again. It's like, I think what can keep you going is the fact that it's part of your identity. I mean, that's for sure the ego, but it's interesting how well, if I don't do this, I'm going to lose. I might lose this. I might lose that. Like in Costa Rica, I ate only fruit for a couple of months, and it was a really good experience. And I didn't do it for reasons of getting stronger or anything like that. But I did find that, and I was ready to sacrifice some strength, and that was a big thing for me because I was pretty attached to this whole strength thing, and to be able to do these certain moves and stuff. So that was quite big. Bit of a tangent there, but yeah, in terms of discipline, I mean, yeah, fortunate to have something that I'm really passionate about. Like the foods that I eat, the research and the learning that I do, the way I observe people, quite often it becomes, that's what I'm thinking about, well, how's this person moving? That's interesting. Like, oh, that posture, I wonder why they've got like that. So it is something that's just, it's just there really. Like, it's just very fortunate to have that. I think as well, there is an aspect of fearlessness with it, because I'm willing to be very uncomfortable and going to a gym at 18, 19 years old of people that I don't know, and take them through a class, or take them, whatever it may be, like go through a workshop with them or something like this. And that certainly helped me grow, because I found how much I enjoyed that, and how much you can really help people, and how much this discipline and many other all disciplines, there's a lot of people who enjoy them and do them, and suddenly you've got this way of helping people. And for me, this is my way of helping people. And I do it for free, just like you do what you do for free, and that's it's no question. I do that for free. I do this for free. It
makes a massive difference, because that's why I think that's why we as soon as we met, we clicked just like that, because we both just kind of, it's just easy. It's easy, and it's good to be around people who like helping people, and it just is. And and I think when I met you, you was giving a free class. I think that's how I met you. I just spotted someone doing something cool from a distance, I wonder. I was like, what went over? I was like, oh, I'm weak. I'm probably, he was doing some crazy stuff, like flying up and down over this bar, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I should go over it. It's a bit embarrassing. I'm a bit embarrassed to go and do 3 pull-ups. Yeah, I started, I'll do it anyway, and and then I just went over, and you just kind of, but didn't realise that you was actually teaching loads of people who don't do that, and so, no, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's funny that who knows really why we find these things, and why we decide to do them and sort of pursue them. But it's nice, isn't it? It's nice. Very fortunate, very lucky to have it. It's just it's hard not to think about it. It's like if you try and meditate. Well, meditating, what are the most common thoughts that come in? Thoughts about exercise, thoughts about
yeah.
And then you've got all the noise and all the sort of social stuff. But it's just there, isn't it? It's just there in your mind. And then you make it a habit, and once it becomes a habit, it's actually hard to not do it. Hard to not every day study a little bit or train a bit or something. It becomes
It impressed me the sort of the level of austerity and sacrifice that you was prepared to go to through exercise, which is that of that's kind of what what monks do, is they give you was literally was giving up relationships and sex and masturbation, and at the age of 20 thinking about like I don't want to do that stuff because that actually gets in the way of my focus and my progress in doing that. And it's kind of like that's what monks are doing, and applying that to a spiritual practice. And it's just like the level of discipline was really unusual. You don't see it very often.
Yeah, it's funny, like elite athletes, like, although it's obviously for a different purpose. No, I'm an elite athlete, but from my understanding of elite athletes, they make all these sacrifices, especially the ones that have been in the game for a long time. Your Roger Federers, your people like this. And that's it. Like, there's a lot of parallels, I think, between someone who's very spiritual and takes up a certain spiritual practice, and someone who's an elite athlete, or like a sustainable elite athlete. Quite interesting. It's quite funny.
Well, just discipline alone is it's a really interesting thing, and it's like you were saying earlier when I was saying kind of like everybody's lazy, and it doesn't mean that everybody's lazy at everything, but everybody's got areas of their life where they're lazy, and everybody hits spots where they don't feel like doing anything, and it's kind of like I don't believe that people are inherently lazy or not, like it's a genetic thing, or I mean it could be diet related and stuff as well, but I think on a deeper level, and even the diet stuff I believe is kind of related to these really deep desires, and what it is that you want, like on a really deep level, because like all, like emotions are all attached to what we want, and and it's come down to attachment and which way you're directing yourself, and whether you're kind of being completely self-centered or driven by insecurity or driven by some desire to serve a greater good. And it was only once I mean, obviously you can, I think kind of on both sides of that, there's like a middle grey area where you're kind of like lost and you don't know what on earth you're doing. There's like there's like a maleficent, like sort of really evil path that you can take that probably they don't think is evil, but would like on a general consensus people would be like Adolf is a bad person, that kind of thing, where he's like super driven by God knows what, but he had a motivation and he maybe didn't think he was doing a bad thing. But like I found, like, hopefully on the other end of the spectrum, I don't know what people's kind of general judgment is of what I'm doing, but since I've tried to serve a greater good and kind of done, it's not, I haven't done it, it's happened. Everything is kind of aligned, like your life, because when you've made this helping people through exercise your life, everything is aligned through this desire to help people through mental health, through things that I've been gifted with and equipped to do it. Like, I've just got this motivation now. I wake up, I was like, right, I've got this, I already know what I want to do. And it's just great. And like that, and now I'm not lazy.
Yeah.
In my opinion, now.
Yeah, no, I think not. Like, every time I see you doing something.
I have been.
Yeah.
Many times in my life, I've had 2 periods in my life where I haven't been to work for 3 months at a time, and I've pretty much just sat and stared into thin air and had really bad anxiety. Like, really bad anxiety. So bad that I can't work or do anything or pretty much be around anything annoying because it just irritated me too badly. And that was seemingly lazy, but clearly like really bad episode of some kind of mental ailment. I was not in a good way. And then now when I, barely have any anxiety unless there's a reason, unless something happens. And what was the difference? The difference is that I've got direction. And kind of like I'm sort of like I feel like I'm doing the right thing, and it's like an internal inspiration. It's not like I'm, because that's the funny thing I've realised with motivation is that for you to have motivation, there needs to be a motive, there needs to be a reason, and it's got to be something. And I think either you can be trying to externally motivate yourself by the changing things outside of yourself, or you can commit to some kind of higher cause where from within there's this just internal and also providing this fulfilling thing that's going on, and you kind of, it's amazing when you actually find that, and it's not always. But
I think, and I think also that like it's not something necessarily that you can just like ask. Like, well, you can ask for it. You can ask for it in prayer, something like this. But you can't just like get get it. You can't really, all right, this is going to be the thing that I focus on. It just comes. It does, doesn't it? It just comes. But when it does, I think a lot of people don't pursue things because they're worried. And this is kind of like one thing I've been fortunate, like one perspective I've been fortunate to have. I'm not sure why I've got the perspective. Probably someone somewhere has taught me it, or I've learnt it from them. So what will often happen, I believe, is that someone will not decide to pursue something that they feel aligns to themselves in that moment because they think that it's not going to be sustainable, in 10 years' time, in 2 years' time, in a minute's time. They're not going to want to do it anymore. They're going to change course. Like, to me, changing course is not a problem. Not a problem at all. There's a book I like, and what he talks about, and this really resonates, it's like peeling the layers of the onion until you get to the centre. And I think what you're saying there, the centre is finding God, and he's becoming more aware to God. Maybe that's the centre for most, for seems, spiritual practice, that's what the centre is. But whatever it is, just peeling back them layers of the onion, you're just getting deeper and deeper to who you truly are. And that's, I think, I'm in this maybe outside layer, and maybe the next layer will be something else, and the next layer but I'm more than willing to give up what I do now if it's no longer aligned to who I am. That's just the way it is. It's just the way things go. And I think a lot of people don't get pursued on something, don't get fixed on something because they are scared that in a year's time they won't want to do it anymore, and they don't want to give all this time and give all this sacrifice, spend all this money on developing and upskilling. Like, it's all the same stuff. Like, there's so many parallels from what you do to what I do to there's lessons everywhere, So I think, to me, if you decide that you don't want to pursue something because you're worried that you're going to change your mind, I think that's, it's not what I believe to be true from my experience, and certainly from observing other people.
It's really, well, that concept is kind of really hard for some people to get their head around. I mean, the word God, especially being as a fact, as soon as you say that word, everybody has preconceived ideas of what they think that means. And from what I understand through spiritual life is you cannot perceive what God is through any material thing, including the mind, because as soon as you're trying to understand spiritual with material, and that's not possible. So I think, talking about that is like really heavy for some people, but that's kind of where I've come to through my spiritual practice. And since I've kind of aligned myself around that, it's really easy for me to get there through my own unbelievably profound experiences that I've had in my life. But for the people who kind of can't make that quantum leap to being like, all right, well, there's this super like energy that is actually responsible for everything, that is actually the thing that is connecting everybody together, so that we're not all just this relative thing, all kind of loosely, chaotically floating around by ourselves in infinite space, which is infinity itself is an unbelievably hard thing for people to get their head around. And for anybody that kind of has a real problem with the idea of like God, but like just consider a concept is that every single thing that we have ever seen and can know or think of within this material universe, even by scientific discovery, has all come from a single point. So from a single point, there's been an explosion, and poof, and all this material, including us and everything, came from this big. Now, how is that possible? How is it possible that there can be an explosion and like, poof, and quantum physics knows that everything is just vibrating energy.
Yeah.
It's energy. And if you zoom in on everything, it's all made up of the same things. It's all atoms, and it's all made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons. So if you zoom in on this on this table in front of me, and a piece of dog shit, or even let's say a bar of chocolate and a piece of dog shit, underneath, like on a microscopic level, they're exactly the same. Which is why the yogis understand that this whole world, this whole material manifestation is just like a world of names. It's like illusory. Mm-hmm. It's weird, and people struggle to get their head around these ideas when you kind of make a quantum leap from, atheism, which is not equally as I had this conversation recently, and I kind of like, and it's a hard conversation to have with people, and I don't talk about it very often.
Yeah. Don't matter, does it? Don't matter. Like, yeah, if it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's just like, yeah. Just enjoy it. Yeah.
But it's like almost impossible to prove a negative. Like, how do you really prove something doesn't exist? It's not like you can show them it. Like, look, this doesn't exist, and it's like, well, there it is. Because you can't. Yeah. Because if it doesn't exist, you can never find it to prove it.
Yeah.
So I can understand why atheists say it doesn't exist, I've never seen it. But to say that something doesn't exist full stop means that they know everything.
Yeah.
Which is why to be an atheist and to be like, to say that definitely 100% doesn't exist means that I know everything, which is an unbelievably arrogant statement by definition.
Yeah, I think just curiosity, isn't it? Like, curiosity is a good thing to be going around with. And that helps with growth. Like, because if you just like, I wonder, like, I mean, at the moment I'm studying my Masters in S&C, strength and conditioning. So that is very much, you read papers, you learn about anatomy, you learn scientific method. But at the same time, I've got a burning desire to go to China, like a temple in China where they do Shaolin Kung Fu, and they do Qigong as well, and obviously a lot of meditation. And I want to go there and I want to learn about this stuff. This is not science, and there's not much literature that goes over Qigong or Shaolin Kung Fu or anything like this. But it's different, and clearly it's very effective to develop athleticism and to develop, the other qualities as well. But it's doesn't really fit the mold of scientific literature. Like, there's nothing really there on that. But it's just curiosity. It's like, well,
There actually is an unbelievable amount of literature and scriptures out there and stuff. And I always kind of like, what drove me away from religiosity is not the scripture, but the people.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of nutters out there, and there's a lot of fanatical people. And there's a lot of religious fanatics that, get the shit and they throw it down people's throats. And that, as soon as someone says, oh, this person's Christian, you're like, oh, God. Straight away, I'm just like, oh, my God. I don't want to talk to him. And I have those thoughts. And it was only through, taking up a spiritual process, which essentially Christianity should be a spiritual process. Jesus was like a spiritual master. But the people who are practicing Christianity aren't, I'm sure some of them are getting it, but a lot of them, they're just kind of like, oh, I've become a Christian, and as soon as you get through the baptism thing or whatever, christening, as soon as you do that, it's like, I am a Christian, and it's like, well, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that you've perfected some spiritual practice. It doesn't mean that you have a connection with, like, this divine connection that's fulfilling and bringing purpose and meaning to your life. And what blew my mind is that when you observe the character of Jesus, and then the character in all the Vedic scriptures and all the scriptures about religiosity, they all have the same transcendental type of characteristics. It's not like there's just this one guy, Jesus, who was really wonderful. It's like, no, there's loads of these people. But this is just one book about one person. But there's actually, there's a ton of this stuff out there, and it's all the same, and the essence of all these things is exactly the same. And Jordan Peterson was giving a lecture, and he's like, they've kind of like shut down on religion, and they've kind of like got rid of it because they realised it's like the opiate of the masses. You can kind of brainwash people with this stuff. Obviously, the church aren't necessarily, practicing, that they're not doing it. They ain't doing what you should do. They're basically just using it for power and manipulation. They're interested in power and wealth. They're telling people that they have to give all their money, and they manipulating it.
Yeah.
But so people, they've kind of thrown religion out. It's like, you've thrown religion out because of this one bad quality, but you've also thrown the baby out with the bathwater. You're like, because the bathwater was dirty, you've thrown the baby out as well because, when you think about why do people act, why be good? What's the point? Like all these teachings, like, love your neighbour like your brother, don't murder people, thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's goods, which basically means you shouldn't look at other people's stuff and be jealous or envious of it. And these are things that, like, I'm not being funny, but, like, we really need to start applying these things to our life.
Yeah, I think one thing that I'm listening to a lot of Alan Watts at the moment, and one thing that he said was that I found really, really interesting, and it also made me think of Tolkien, the guy who wrote Lord of the Rings and that, the Hobbit. But basically, he said like an all-seeing, like an eye. So he see like an eye of judgment, and he was saying that one of his friends who was Christian had an eye on their toilet in their bathroom. So he said it was funny because whenever they go to the bathroom, they always feel like that eye's watching them. It's that eye of judgment, eye of either good or bad. And he said that he thinks that was too much for the West and for Christians, and it was like depressing, and they felt suppressed by the idea that they were always being judged by this all-seeing eye. And it made me think of Lord of the Rings and like the eye of Sauron, how it's like all-seeing eye sees all. I thought, yeah, I reckon Tolkien's pretty onto it.
The problem is if you don't have that internal judge, if you don't have that. If you don't have that, at the end of the day, in sort of spiritual life, you kind of like the only person that you should care about the judgment of is they call it Paramatma. It's like the Lord within your heart, the eternal friend. That's the only thing you should care about being pleasing to. And if you don't do that, you make every single other human being the judge. Yeah. And man, that is a miserable experience, caring what other people think. And I think if there's one thing you can do wrong, it's care what other people think, because you're going to lose yourself so quickly. Just think about when you was a kid and you started to care about what people thought, how quickly you started doing weird things, man. Like drinking alcohol, sniffing chemicals, fighting, and just literally just destroying the place. So trying to impress people.
Yeah, well, before this,
it's
all good, innit? You're just chilling before that. It's all happy in the world, good place. You cry if you want something. You're happy if you're happy. Yeah. I think I agree with what you're saying. I mean,
this so what we're talking about here. People are like, I'm really passionate about this stuff. Yeah, because I've. From a mental health perspective and from finding purpose and meaning and direction and inspiration and beating laziness and being healthy and doing things for the right reasons. Yeah. I've been really searching for this stuff. And, and I've been always like I've been an atheist. Yeah. Until I stopped being so arrogant and I realised that I didn't know what was going on. And I've come from the other side to the point where I believe that there is a supreme personality, that it's not a man in the clouds. I don't know that because I can't see that. But what I'm experiencing from practicing, I do Vaishnavism and Bhakti yoga, which is the same. Really, it's not different to these other religious practices. When you come down to it's like the actual essence of it. It's all the same, and it's all that fundamentally we're all Atma, which is souls, and there's everybody's just like a normal soul, and then there's Paramatma, which is kind of like this one super soul, which is actually the source of everything. So people say universe, people say source, but this source, I don't know about the doubt, and I have asked some questions about that recently in the yin and yang, but the yin and yang and the duality is actually kind of like material. And it's like here, there is a duality, but in the spiritual world, there's no duality. It transcends duality completely. Yeah. There isn't, that thing is completely beyond that. And it just made absolute, complete sense. I mean, when you think about this whole racism thing, what is it that makes people equal? Like, why? Yeah. What's the science that says this person and this person are exactly the same in quality? And it's because in a spiritual quality, they're exactly the same. It's like we are. Yeah. People think they have a soul, but it's not that they have one; they are one. Yeah. That's the. Yeah. And when you meditate, it doesn't take long after meditating to realize that you are awareness. Yeah. And you come to realize that you're not the body. And the reason why we're suffering so much is through associating with I am the body, and you think you're going to die. Yeah. But once you realize, if you realize, if you realise you're not going to die, that's quite that's quite a relief. Yeah. It's still scary as shit.
Yeah, because we don't fully understand it, we can't, like, we don't have experience of it and stuff. Well, we probably, our souls probably, well, will have had experience of it, but yeah, it's and I think, yeah, I think I've lost my thought now, but it's just nice, isn't it? Nice to know. It's a nice, assuring sort of thing to have there. Just be sort of, it's a good grounding. Philosophy, really.
I was going to ask you because I've seen you go through a transformation from being like literally obsessed with exercise and strength and achieving goals and certain moves like front weaver as your famous example, getting this specific thing, and then you kind of pulled back, eased off, because that was like there was like a deeply sense of dissatisfaction through not having your goal, and now you kind of have pulled back. And I mean, what was the shift there?
A friend I was in Costa Rica, he's been massively influential for me. He's also from Lincolnshire. I think he's Andy, really, really like interesting guy. And speaking to him has been very, very good. And also speaking to other people in my life, a guy who's like mentoring me called Eric. He's not really coming from a spiritual perspective, but just the lessons that he's taught me about attachment. He's coming from it more of like a psychological side of it. That's where his sort of field is. But to me, it kind of just synced up really with the spirituality stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it has been. Yeah, it's just all like, you just come to realize it's all right. I'm in a very fortunate position, like I say, with finding something that I have purpose, and I've got a very loving family and loving friends. So I'm very fortunate, and I think that certainly helps because you feel a lot less stress and you feel able to be in a position where you can actually explore this stuff. So I can see for other people who aren't as fortunate that it would be hard to find the time and to find the tranquility. I think it's still doable, but I can see how it would be more difficult. But yeah, it's just having time to just, like in Costa Rica I had 6 months there, obviously quarantine made me stay there for longer. The issues made me stay there for longer. It was just so my intention was really to not do a lot other than train and just work on my sort of self, if you like. Well, it wasn't actually my intention, but it ended up being that way because of me not really having Wi-Fi where I was staying. I was in quite a rural part of it. Then everything shut down. I wasn't able to go to cafes and work. So it just meant that really I just had no choice other than just sort of do nothing and just be. And accepting that, spending more time in nature, making things like meditation a priority. I did ayahuasca as well whilst I was there, and that was amazing. I think everyone should experience that. It really was amazing. It just makes you realise it's all good. All these things that, like you say, all this attachment that we have to the body, to the mind, to thoughts, just is irrelevant. And you can literally, like, if you're feeling bad, you're not feeling good, all you need to do is lie in a comfortable position, put on some nice candle or incense, put on some nice music. All your senses are then positively, like, they're just happy, they're just content. And that's it. That's all you need to do to feel good. If you feel bad, that's all you need to do. Lie down.
Sometimes
nice
I can't get there. Sometimes I can't get there. I mean, from what I've learned is like it's got so much that because the senses aren't you. You can kind of like there's like material happiness and spiritual happiness are completely different things. Material happiness is like simply an escape from the misery. Material, like, life is kind of like, it sounds really pessimistic, but on a level it's kind of miserable all the time. Almost in the sense, not all the time, not literally all the time, but like most of the time, it's like miserable in the sense that you are a slave to the body. You have to feed it. You have to worry about your health. You have to cook constantly. You have to go to the toilet. You have to wash it. You have to shave. I mean, if you're a woman, oh my God. And I feel like so blessed not to have to go through what they have to go through. You have to worry about getting pregnant, and that's gnarly. Periods.
Would you know periods?
Periods, and the hormonal, the effects of the hormones from all these things as well. And being in a human body is like a really heavy experience. And for some people, most people think they are the body. If you're not aware of this the spiritual essence that you are. And yeah, it's hard for, I know it's hard for people to understand that unless you have had a spiritual practice and meditated a lot and learnt and actually tackled that empirically through observation and experience, which you can do. You know, you can do that. Yeah, so with that, you know, you can make all the senses happy, and you can kind of find like a peacefulness in life by getting yourself into like a really, you know, you can actually get away from everything. But I kind of find that like unless you find that inner, you connect to that inner Paramatma, and you connect to the sort of like the source of everything, and the spiritual world. Like the spiritual world is called. Ooh, am I going to get this right? Vaikuntha, which actually means like free of anxiety.
Yeah.
Because anxiety comes from material and wanting things, and yeah.
And this is it. It's like, can you be that in these tasks that you have to do, and in these looking after the body and preparing food, and you know, dealing with what you've got to deal with as a human. So I'm just going to get my charger. But like, can you still stay in that place? And that's the hard part in it. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the kind of the why and the motivations, which is why I asked you about, you know, what was your kind of like transition from, you know, being kind of super focused on the goals and the external. It's not like it's only external or internal. Like spiritual life's both. People think spiritual life is about, you know, just going to the forest, escaping the external stuff, finding somewhere peaceful. It's not. It's about doing both simultaneously, and you can actually do the external stuff in a conscious way that is actually like performed in a spiritual consciousness, so that it is not so that you feel good, but so that it's meaningful and actually beneficial for you spiritually, and like actually feeding the soul, so that you can have a spiritual happiness instead of just like nourishing the body, having a massage, and doing things that like feel. I mean, at the end of the day, sniffing a massive line of ket feels great to me, and there's a sense of material happiness. But it's just like in the long run, in that moment, I am so happy, and then there's just the turmoil that follows is devastating, and then if you kind of like realise that, you know, it's like a spectrum, you know, it's like from decadence and chaos to kind of like absolute goodness, and it's like, you know, you can kind of slide along that scale from, you know, smack and hookers and, you know, and to party drugs to just a bit of pint with your mates to like, you know, then getting on do yoga and eat salad, and you know, you can, and then kind of like there's like a big scale, like it's like a big spectrum of things that you can do, and like the more you get that way into the mode of goodness, out of the mode of, it's called the mode of ignorance, the decadence, the chaos and the mental health problems, and just slide that into the mode of goodness, it gets more peaceful, and it does get better, but then you still get to a limit where you like become really attached to the peacefulness, and you don't want the chaos, and you're like, every time something chaos is like, get away from me.
Go get back in it, and The thing is, though, we all know the right choice. Like, we all know what the right choice is. I think really deep inside, like you say, I can't remember what you call that. I'm not really familiar with the Vedas as much, but we all know what the right choice is. But we so often don't make it. And I've just experiences like left, right, and centre where like I'll think about making the wrong choice because I don't know, my mind's telling me to. Whatever, I'm like driven by impulse and by whatever, like lizard brain or whatever you want to call it. Like, but you know, sometimes this becomes a drive, and you can't sleep at night because you feel this way. And I think this is where like maybe a change of scenery. For me, this is where a change of scenery comes in really handy. Like, for example, you wanted to, easy example, you wanted to eat really bad food, you got a massive craving for it. Go for a walk. Get out for a walk. Or you are, not okay. Whatever's telling you not to exercise today. Those are just examples. I guess I know there'll be plenty of others that are more specific for other people. But you're not wanting to exercise today, right? Get out and just do a couple of sets of something that you know well. Start that, at least then you've done some, you've chosen to do what your mind or whatever it is telling you not to do. I think that's it. We all know what the right choice is. We just like, I think often just we're not able to make that change of scenery in that moment. I think that's all you need to do. You just need to just make a really simple change of scenery. For you, it was going to New Zealand, I think. Like, what got you on this path and what got you away from
it helped massively.
Was like, yeah,
it's really interesting because like there's that kind of like characterization of like that angel and demon on your shoulder that they always have. Like you've got that, and like in the Vedas, that would kind of be confirmed as well as the same thing. It was like you've got the Paramatma, which is like, people call it the higher self, but that would be understood as essentially God's the omnipresent aspect of God in your own heart that is always with you. That's giving you the right guidance. And then you've got the false ego, which is the false idea of who I am, which is the reason why we can believe that we're the body and that we can have fault. This is why you need to find yourself. This is why people say, I need to find myself, because the false ego has driven you away, and it's constantly deceiving you. It's constantly telling you things, and that's why you need to like learn to meditate and learn to realize that you're not your mind, so that when you get in these really fucked up thoughts, and you'd be like, well, I need to step back from that. And then you practice spiritual life so you can learn to discern which ones are coming from your heart and which ones are coming from your false ego in your mind, and having that clarity on knowing which way it is you need to go. Because, I mean, essentially anybody who's got mental health problems, and in particular things like schizophrenia, essentially what's happened there is they've listened to the bad ones, and the bad ones have taken over completely. Yeah. And they're like, you're like being driven by real nasty, really nasty stuff. You're not, you've let go. You as a soul has let go of the reins, and you've been like, shut your eyes on, and you're just kind of on autopilot, and it's not.
It happened, yeah.
And you're just you're observing this stuff happening, and you know that you don't want to do that. You know that it isn't who you are really, and it's happening anyway. And like, it's like my addiction. In a drug addiction, you've let go of the steering wheel, and then it's like not you that's actually driving you, and you're in this body, just getting taken along for the ride. And I mean, there's no better explanation of that, is there? As an addiction, it's like, why am I doing things I don't want to do? It's because you've let go, and the false ego is just driving the ship based on impulses. Oh, I want that.
It's so amazing, this stuff. It's so amazing. Like, it's so amazing because it's applicable to everyone. It
is, and some people, I've gone heavier in this podcast than I have in any previous podcast, and this stuff to me is the stuff that really has made the difference in my life. It's the stuff that's actually changed my life, made sense of everything, connected me to other people. I don't feel disconnected that often anymore, and I feel when I'm on my own, I often don't feel lonely, and when I do feel lonely, I know what I've got to do, and it isn't finding external stuff. I know that when I'm lonely, I have to fix that internal relationship. I know that I have to do that.
The thing that I like about you, mate, is that you don't beat around the bush too much. Like, and I think that's really what you're doing now. That's like a really nice, really good, like really just refreshing. You're not trying to come up with some like thing that people just agree with because it's socially, there is some of that. You're trying to make things, understandable for people. You're trying to make it like, okay, God isn't a word that people like, or spirituality isn't necessarily a word that people like, but you're not, you just say it how it is. You say it how you feel, and you're very honest and very, like non-conforming to things that, you just who you are. And I think that's really good. And I think that's, I think it's just a fantastic way of being.
Not many times in my life have I had the strength to make sacrifices and austerities that I've had within my power to change. Like, I've been powerless most of my life to a drug addiction or caring what people think, and I still do care what people think, and I'm not going to pretend that I don't. It's like, still, when someone says something to me or I have like conflict is something that I really struggle with. it makes me feel terrible. I feel like, I feel like I've done something wrong. I'm quite sensitive. I actually am. But I know that this stuff is what's helped me. And I've seen and observed very carefully what makes a difference to people. And, it's funny because, like, when you watch any inspirational person, just watch, Gandhi, for example, and there's a movie about Gandhi, and I'm sure it's reasonably factual, and so there's so many true stories. And look at what people who made a big social difference had to go through. Most of them got beaten, thrown into prison, discriminated against, was completely going against what, if everybody's doing something, it's probably wrong, is what I've learned. If absolutely everybody's doing something, it's probably wrong, because unfortunately human beings are driven by the false ego unless you take control, which is, anger, greed, jealousy, and desire to be popular, powerful, wealthy, and all these things that actually, that's what false ego does. It tries to make you better than other people. So everything, you're just pushing people around and you're trying to get to the top, and everybody's doing that. So,
do you know the story of like Viktor Frankl?
No.
He was in the Nazi concentration camp, and his wife, his parents killed, and he was being sort of tortured quite badly. And he came to realise, he started to observe the position that he was in, and he came to let go of the body and let go of the pain that he was going through and the emotion that he was going through. And he realised that, one thing that can't be taken away from him is his ability to choose how he thinks and how he acts in the situation that he's been put in. And I think that was like pretty amazing. Like, you get pushed so far. I don't think, obviously everyone needs to get pushed that far to realise it, but I think it's just a good example that he's been pushed that far and he's come to realise that, like, yeah, I'm not this body. This body means nothing to me. I'm not these emotions. I'm so much more. Yeah,
it's impressive. Pretty impressive if you can get to that level of disattachment, because most of us are very attached to these things. I think it is us. You look in the mirror and you think that's me, and I do.
Yeah.
But I know it's not. But I still do, because it's been like most of my life, or God knows how many lifetimes worth of doing this sort of thing, like heavily conditioned. And if you don't believe that we've had a body before, look it up. Look up reincarnation. Look up people remembering their past lives. There's loads of stuff on the internet. It's not kind of like, it's not some woo-woo far-out thing. You can just do a simple Google search and find documentaries and examples of people going to meet their old families, and it's really trippy and far out, and not in the mainstream, because it's kind of weird. And people don't want spirituality in them. Pardon?
Energy just disappeared, does it? It has to go somewhere. So, yeah.
There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita that says, I'm paraphrasing massively, and this isn't exactly what it says, but it's along the lines of, the soul is eternal and imperishable. It can't be cut with a sword. It can't be burnt. It can't be, you just can't. It's eternal, and that's it. You can't do anything. Like, that's who you are. You are eternal, and that's kind of like one of the reasons why everybody wants to live forever. Everybody wants to be happy. Everyone wants to be blissful. Everyone wants knowledge, because that's our eternal state, and that's why we crave those things. That's why we want love. That's why our highest desire is to love and to be loved, because that's actually what our eternal and natural state is. And it's actually what the state we're in now is very unnatural, but we're all kind of pining for that, but through a material lens, which is I am the body, and stimulating my senses and mind, and being powerful and happy and full and all these things. You think that's going to make you happy, but the more you do it, the emptier you get inside, because you're not feeding your soul. You're not getting any food. You're essentially spiritually starving yourself.
Mm. And you think that, because you get these people who, like you say, inspirational speakers, or people who are very successful in a certain field, who the field that they're in, it happens to help lots of people, and they're not spiritual people, but they seem to be very productive and also very very aligned to what they're doing. And do you think that is feeding the soul in some sense?
It's really hard to judge an action in life and say whether that's a good or bad thing to do. We can't make proper judgments of things, and unless we've seen the entire picture of that person's life, whether something appears good or bad to us, we can't say, because we don't know the full picture. And it's more about why you're doing something than what you're doing. It's all about the condition of your own heart and the desire of your own heart, and whether you're trying to improve things for the greater picture or not, or on a really extreme scale, you could be killing someone and it could be doing the greatest good for so many other people, which I couldn't kill anyone. That's not in my nature at all. But I believe that and I'm pretty sure that there's people in this world who that is their purpose and that is what they're here to do. And there's people that, and I'm grateful for the military, because without it, imagine how chaotic it would get. You get absolute nutcases coming in, and if you didn't have the military for a country, imagine how long it would last. It wouldn't.
Well, Costa Rica have military. I don't know. I think in Tao Te Ching it says about, again, it's paraphrasing, but it says if you get rid of all that stuff, you get rid of warheads, you get rid of military, you get rid of that control, people will do the right thing.
All of them, all military and all control.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, but getting rid of that, it's not going to happen.
No, because
it's a wonderful ideal, but it's not. And there's a lot of really, really selfish and crazy people in this world. A scary amount of craziness, and that order and this system that so many of us go against is actually, whilst it's not perfect and a political level, oh my God, and whatever's going on now is just mind-blowing, but the fact that we've got a military that at the end of the day does protect us from some real threats, and no one can say exactly what would happen, but I really believe that that's actually protecting us.
Yeah. It's like I say, when I was staying in Costa Rica don't have a military, but I don't know. I didn't really travel enough around the country and stuff to sort of get a feel. Certainly, it's a pretty chill place. I mean, obviously they have a police force, but which is kind of the police force serves the same purpose as what the military would do within the country. But they, everyone just says to each other "pura vida" all the time, which means pure life. It's pretty I think it's a pretty good thing to be doing. You're just in the streets, pura vida. I think it's a pretty good little nugget to be thrown out there every day to people.
I was going to say one thing about the previous question that you asked, and all this, people talk about passion being a really good thing, and there's things that are in passion, sex is in passion, sports and art and loads of stuff is in the mode of passion. It's where and that's characterised in the Vedas by you want something back from what you're doing, and often when you're wanting for what you're doing, it's actually from this mode that attachment is created from this place. And it kind of depends how it's got to be kept in check, because you can kind of go too far with it and it can lead to addictions and stuff. And one of the modes of one of the things with the mode of passion is that it can be incredibly unfulfilling. Kind of there's nothing's ever enough. Look at in the case of sport and your exercises, you're always kind of, you're not necessarily in the moment. You're kind of always chasing that next thing, and it kind of creates this. It kind of starts to create this chase where you're never actually fulfilled. You're always next, and it actually kind of gets further and further away. So you got to kind of be aware. Yeah, passion. I love doing all these things in passion, like snowboarding and all them things. But when I look at my extreme sports career, actually, kind of what that was I was chasing adrenaline and kind of it's kind of like getting hits of happiness, getting hits of, and it's kind of that nowness, that fulfillment isn't necessarily there or going to be there, but for some people it will be, and it's not everyone, because you can kind of do that in a transcendental way, and through practicing being present and the things that you're doing for the right reasons, and it's cool. But you got to be aware of that.
I think part of me says that the best in a sport, whatever it may be, are present in that moment.
and that's what they're looking to. They're not thinking about the future. They're not thinking they are present in that moment. And it's like, it comes back to like what I'd link to that is, and I get it's only part of me that thinks this, but someone who is enlightened wouldn't tell you they're enlightened. They wouldn't need to, because they are. That's who they are. There's no one they need to tell. There's nothing they need to say. They will say what they need. If someone asks them a question, they will answer it. They're not. There's nothing to be preached from them. They're just that. I think same sometimes with with some disciplines or some arts or music. Like sometimes people, and maybe this is like that Japanese sort of saying satori, where you have glimpses of just presentness and just blissness in the moment, doing, just being there and not thinking about past or future. But I think people who are very, very gifted at stuff, they don't need to tell anyone, because they spend a fair amount of time, at least when they're doing that thing. And that's why they enjoy it so much. That's why they get so good at it, just being pretty present.
It's hard to it's really hard to put absolutes on these things, but yeah, for sure, I mean, I think it's that same, coming back to that why again. It's like someone who is self-realized and enlightened might tell you that they are, and it might be for your benefit that you know that, or there might be something that, if someone's telling you something so that it benefits you, it's different. So if they're telling you so that they sound better, because that is,
But we know the difference, don't we? We do. I don't know what it is. It's like the people that we aspire to and we admire. Why do we admire them? Why do we like them? Like, why is it that person that you're just really attracted to and you want to know more about and you want to learn more from? Like, why? It's just there's something. It's just like we just know, don't we? We know when people are genuine and authentic, and we know when people are just I think we also know when people are full of shit. It's funny that we know this.
Sometimes it's easier than others, but I think that comes down to that, that within your own heart, you get that. If you can tune into it and hear, you are getting that guidance all the time.
Yeah.
Callum, this has been the most mature conversation that we've ever had.
Yeah. I've had some pulls now and again to be like, say something inappropriate, but I'm afraid it's been.
It's been the heaviest podcast I've done as well. I've really gone into things that I kind of hold back from, because with Break the Chain, it's kind of like, I want to talk about this stuff as well, but, I kind of think I want to do what's helpful for people and not and keep it reasonably broad for people, and then talk about this stuff on a more filtrated level, and kind of keeping it broad for people. But at the same time, it's funny, because if Russell Brand's talking about it, it's cool, and everybody's into it. And then when someone of your mates is talking about it, you give them shit. I don't know, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. So thanks for fishing that out of me, mate.
Yeah, you're welcome, mate. I'm glad that you're able to be yourself with me, and speak openly and not with a filter.
Well, I do like talking with you, Callum. It's always fun, so...
Yeah, indeed.
We better cut it. We've done an hour and a half. Normally I cap it at an hour. So we've done a long time there, mate. But thanks for coming on. Where do people find you on social media? Check Callum out. He's like, he's like, what he does is absolutely wild. There's, his expertise with strength, his just your personality, mate. It's great, and just a really fun and lovable guy. I don't know why that alarm's going off. So what's your social medias?
So on Facebook, like Plant Calisthenics is sort of my business page, and then on Instagram, same thing, and then I've got my sort of personal Instagram as well, which is just, I can't remember, it's like, I think it's Callum_Plant Cali or something. I'm not really doing much social media at the moment. I don't know, like, I just don't feel like doing it. I think maybe, like, my mate, sorry to rant on again, my mate sent me a thing from a guy called Paul Farini. He's quite an interesting guy. And he talks about different years, you have different intentions and different focuses. And I think this year I've been kind of quite a restful, recluse sort of year. Maybe next year I'll be a bit more out there and posting stuff. Like, at the moment, I'm just not really feeling sharing lots of stuff. Like, I just kind of want to be in the trenches, working with people on a more of an individual level, and sort of doing that. But I think, there's still some stuff on there from a few years ago, and that
there's loads of stuff on there.
Some value.
And if you just go on YouTube and search calisthenics, but also like this fulfills me to no end at the moment. So if you just send me a message on whatever, Facebook or not Instagram, it's Facebook or maybe even WhatsApp, whatever. I'll give Jaden a WhatsApp or send me an email, whatever. Emails maybe better. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll put you in any sort of direction with advice. I do really love this stuff, and if people are passionate and interested in it, then I'd love to help you. So that's probably the best thing if you want help from me. But if not, you can just go on YouTube, search Calisthenics, Fitness FAQs. He's got a real good channel. So
cool, mate. Thank you so much. All right, guys, nice one. Break the chain.